Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Rock Academy, our Masterclass concert series. And we're very excited. We're here with our sixth edition, volume 6. And we've got a really special guest, a music academy teacher, and also the vocal coach of many of our Rock Academy vocalists that have been in our program through the years. And so I'm going to introduce her. Please welcome Miss Emily Easterly. Welcome to our show. And I gotta unmute you. Sorry about that. You may want to unmute yourself. You're currently muted.
Here we go. There we go.
Hey, how you doing? Welcome.
Good. How are you?
We're
yeah,
great.
not a
We're
vocal
very
coach.
excited to have you here.
Oh, not vocal coach, Tim, but guitar coach.
Guitar coach. That's right.
Yeah.
I always think of you as a vocalist and a guitarist, and therefore a vocal teacher and a guitar teacher. But yeah, thanks for the correction.
Yeah.
Well, tell us a little bit about your music and what we're going to be getting to hear tonight.
Okay. Yeah. So I am, singer-songwriter. Tend to sway more to the rock side. So I've got, play electric guitar mostly. And yeah, I think I just released a new album in the fall. So I'm going to play a couple songs from that new album. And I talk about it a little bit. I recorded a little video for you guys just the other night. So yeah.
Very cool.
It'll just be me and a guitar, but the album has more instruments on it. But tonight it'll just be solo performance.
Nice. I think that's sort of been all of our experience as musicians for the last couple months is very much learning how to be a soloist and make that work. And it's not easy. I know that as a guitar player to play without a band, it's a lot more work. You're covering a lot more ground. Right. So yeah.
Yeah, I even ventured into the first song that I play. I ventured into using a loop pedal, which I never do. So you might hear 2 guitar parts at once thanks to that looper. But yeah, you got to make it work and do what you can when you're by yourself.
Very cool. Well, we're probably going to have some questions about how you did that once we check it out. So we're going to get into the music, and then for those of you joining in the Zoom room, hang out, and we're going to have some good question time with Emily. For those of you watching on YouTube, you can submit questions as well. Just put them in the comment box, and we'll make sure that we ask her. And yeah, Emily, thanks for being here, and let's check out your music. So
thanks.
Give us a second, and we'll get this going here.
All right.
Academy. I'm Emily Easterly. Gonna play you a couple of my songs from my most recent album called The Blims. It looks like this. I was really excited to press a vinyl for the first time, so like a record. Like this. Yeah, so I'm gonna play a couple songs from that and maybe talk about songwriting process and stuff a little bit. That last song was called Stuck in the Middle Again, and it's the first track on the new album. This next one is called Twist in Your Mind. So that song, when we recorded it, I recorded up in a studio in New York, in Brooklyn, called Studio G. And so on the album, there's like more instruments happening than just guitar and vocal, like what you're hearing right now. But what we did was we actually sampled my guitar riff, that little part. We recorded that and then ran it through to a keyboard and then kind of messed with it, like played it, like chopped it up kind of. It was kind of a neat little thing. So if you check out the track, you'll hear that at the end. instead of me actually like playing it each time, I played it and then we sampled it and then we kind of messed around with it, which was kind of cool. Sort of pieces of it written for probably like 2 years or so, and never really did anything with it. I had this riff. I had that. Like that part. Anyway. Finally was able to piece it all together into an actual song, so that was exciting to get it all finished before recording. So I recorded it actually, I guess it's been almost over a year ago now that I recorded it, but I did 2 songs initially and then came back home and then decided I wanted to do more. So I had to finish up at least a couple more songs to get a good batch of songs. So I really put the pressure on myself to finish writing at least 4 more songs so that I could get back up to the studio in New York and get them done. So for me, sometimes having that pressure of an actual date that I need to finish something by is helpful to getting things done. Otherwise, I just will let things go for a while and procrastinate. All right, I'm gonna try another one. This one, I'm gonna use a little drum sampler, and this is sort of the drum sound that we used in the actual recording. chord-wise, it's super simple. It's just 2 chords the whole time. E chord and D chord. But was kind of more interested in, you know, making it more of a riff-based song as opposed to like just strumming chords. So that was kind of the main songwriting idea with that, and putting the lyrics together with it. So it's a little meandery sounding because it's more hypnotic and cyclical, that kind of thing, with just the 2 chords cycling back and forth. And that one's called Waiting. The next one is called Stealing Flowers. So that one, yeah, just having fun with the lyrics. It's loosely based on a true story, although I do not condone stealing things. And then also kind of loosely based on a film I saw about a art gallery heist. So yeah, stealing flowers. And that one, when we recorded it, definitely had fun with like the guitar parts. Start to sound kind of just messy and dark. And there's some cool little keyboard parts in that song as well on the recording. We used something called a Mellotron, which is kind of awesome. And did some little flute samples on the Mellotron. So if you don't know what a Mellotron is, look it up. They're awesome. I mean, we can talk a little bit about it, but the old ones are like, if you know what the beginning of Strawberry Fields Forever by the Beatles, those are all flute Mellotrons. Nowadays they make digital ones. Back in the day they were all based on little tape reels. But they basically take a sample of, let's say, a flute. So they had a flute player play each note of a flute, and then on that, they run that on a tape, and then each key that you're pressing down on the keyboard is there. But this way you can play all of those notes together on a keyboard. But like I said, nowadays they make digital ones, so it's not a little tape reel, but it's digital. Anyway, so we used a little bit of a flute Mellotron in that song too, which was cool. Let me do a little slower one here. This one's called Good. We don't talk so much anymore, and that's okay. Can't blame the distance. do one more, and it's an older one. The song is called Get Bothered, and it was off of my previous release that's also called Get Bothered. Here we go. So that's it for me. Thanks.
Woo. That was awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah, that was a ride. That was really, really great. Thank you for putting in the time to
Cool,
play
thanks.
those pieces for us and share your music. That was really cool. Well, I have many questions
thanks for having
that yeah, I'd like to add, like, as a songwriter, there's always when I hear, like, when you hear a good song, I mean, I want to say a good song feels like you've heard it before, but it's so intriguingly new at the same time. It's got, you have to have that balance of familiarity, but adventure. And I would say that's, you've got that going. Your songs really feel structured like that. I've got a lot of different questions about writing, but I'm going to start with a personal question that I always have, which is, how do you get lyrics to sound kind of cool and natural and like, oh, that's clever? I don't know. Yeah. Talk to me about lyrics.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, sometimes I literally will just like go with that, like what pops into the first thing that pops out of my head and use it as like a little filler line. So like the first song that I played is called Stuck in the Middle Again. And I think when I was writing it, I had like the guitar riff and stuff. And then I just started singing like the stuck in the middle again. And at first I was like, that's kind of dumb. And there's also a song out there called Stuck in the Middle with You and like whatever. Anyway, but then it just kind of like, I don't know, I just kept it and sort of built off of that. So for me, I don't know, lately, I think I don't write as many like personal type lyrics. I mean, I think they come from a personal place, but I'm more interested in exploring things that are like, you know, like how would somebody else interpret it? How, instead of it being so specific, like I love you, you love me, like, you know, if that makes sense. Trying to like go beyond just how I feel all the time. I don't know if that answers the question.
It does. And I think, yeah, lyrically, I've always found that when I go to write lyrics, I've already it's like I'm trying to write a love song or a sad song. And so you end up writing stuff like you're saying, it just feels like it's a trope. You're just sort of like, yeah, no, of course, you know, I like you, I love you, this sucks, whatever. And my favorite songs are obscure, where you're like, I understand what the hook is, but I'm not really sure what the story is. Your heist song was awesome because it kind of did that. I was like, wait a minute, are we heisting flowers? Like, how many flowers could somebody? You're not really sure what's going on. It's very cool.
Yeah, cool. Thanks.
Well, another thing with you mentioned, you know, you started a song and it's years in development, and one of the things that I know that I've kind of learned that, like, you know, good songs don't, you know, just because you've got the A section that's so good doesn't mean the rest of it's going to happen for a while.
Right.
And I know that as a young composer, it felt like failure. It felt very much like my songs aren't good enough because I don't know what else to do with them. And I wonder, we've got some young composers who are here tonight and who are listening. I wonder if you have any advice to them on like just sort of that patience that you have to have with creativity.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think it's one of those things where being a creative person, you're almost never totally satisfied, right? It's that like feeling of like, but I think if you can get to a point where if you are working on something for so long, labor over it, you know, if you can get to that point where you feel pretty good about all of the parts that you put together, I mean, I think that's exciting. I personally actually work better if I can get all of my like creative ideas kind of out in one sitting. I feel like that's like the best for me. That doesn't always happen. And I think everyone's different. Like my husband writes songs too. He's a musician too. And he's the exact opposite. Like he will labor over something for like forever and play it over and over and over. And I'm not like that. Like the more I hear something, the less ideas I get about it, which is why that one song I mentioned drove me crazy, because I just had all these little bits and pieces for forever. And it finally came together, but it drove me nuts because I want to get it all done in kind of like one sitting if possible. That's how I feel. But I think everyone's different. I think you have to find your own creative, you know, the way you like to work, kind of.
Yeah, it's great advice. Yeah, it's finding your own rhythm and time. Because I know I worked with a friend of mine who's a composer in Indiana, and I said, well, let's hang out for a few days while I'm in town and let's write some music together. And
Cool.
and I would write all morning. I start nice and early and I would write all the way through the morning. He'd sleep until 3 p.m, and then he would write all into the late evening, and we never saw each other. But we ended up writing a bunch of music, and it was really cool. And it was just like, yeah, it doesn't have to be exactly the same process as long as you get to you just keep working at it.
Right.
Well, the other thing that I know that's on some of our, and again, I want to remind everybody out there listening, if you've got a question, if you're on the Zoom thing, feel free, you can do a little raise hand thing, or if you don't want to ask yourself, you can post it in the chat and I'll ask Emily. Or out there on YouTube, if you guys want to. Y'all are on a little bit of a delay, so send me questions and I will definitely ask Emily for you. I know that as Rock Academy, we've been trying to record the last few weeks. We decided, hey, we're going to try to do it at a distance tracking, which is sort of like being in the studio, but you're by yourself. And one of the things that has come up a lot is like getting a good take, right? Like being what I've always thought of as, or what was taught to me from one of my teachers, was being repeatable. Like, it's one thing to learn how to play something, but then you got to do it every time, every night, again and again and again. And that's where the challenge is. And I know that when I go into the studio, and you mentioned you just got this new album coming out, or that you put out, and going into the studio, that's very much on everybody's mind. Like, please lay this down. And it's not like live performance. It's studio. So I don't know, again, as a studio recording artist, do you have any advice for people who are now sort of being put in that, literally in a studio, and that's where they have to live as musicians?
Well, one thing that's popping into my head that I think would probably be important is to probably practice and play with a metronome, or to a click, because if you're doing, especially if you're going to do stuff remotely, you're going to need to have those tracks kind of line up somehow. So I think, like, getting good at playing to a click track or to a metronome is really important, because, when I record anyway, that's the first thing we do is we set the tempo, put the click in, play like a scratch guitar part to that so that you can kind of get the form of the song. Then you do the drums and whatever. But I think that's like one really important thing, just a little technical thing. And yeah, I think that's awesome. I love recording, and that's so cool that Rock Academy is getting to do some of that. I think it's like so much fun to be in the studio and explore that side of things.
Yeah, and one of the troubles is the remote thing, because one of the things that I know in the studio, you're right there with people, and you can be like, like, you can really get into the like, was that a good take? It's like, well, do a few.
Right.
Let's just kind of work through it, and then let somebody else sort of be like, yeah, you got it. Let's move on. But when you're by yourself, that self-critic is one of the loudest. And I know for me, that's always, so we're, this remote thing is very interesting. I'm very curious how other musicians are sort of surviving. Like, all right, I'm just here alone,
not
trying to make music.
Feedback. Like, not getting any feedback from another person there. Yeah, that is kind of tough. Yeah, because you could drive yourself crazy, I think, without being able to bounce an idea off to somebody. Yeah.
Well, another thing I was curious about was as a guitar player, and again, like I was really curious your approach to the guitar. You mentioned, I know you have a band, and these songs are fully orchestrated.
Yeah.
I was really digging. I don't know if minimalism is the right approach, but when you play guitar, how do you kind of like, how have you mastered the neck, the fretboard as this sort of forest to get lost in? What has been your successes as a fretboard player?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I mean, I actually really like playing by myself too. Like, I do have my recordings are like more full band sounding, and then I have a band that I play with live. But I do love playing by myself, and I feel like that's kind of what I did initially, like played a bunch of shows in high school and college just by myself. And so I think doing that, like, hopefully, I think made me a pretty decent like rhythm player. I think that's more my strong suit, like rhythm, riffs and that kind of thing. I'm not as strong on like the lead side of things, which is, for my own music, I'm okay with it because, it's just, that's like my style. So I think I'm for my songwriting style.
A little bit of a lag. I think we got Emily paused a bit. Let's see if this will catch up with us here in a second.
Are you there?
There we go. Oh, okay. She's back. Okay. Hey, welcome back.
Oh no, did I freeze up too?
Yeah, we had a little bit of a freeze. Who knows what everybody else saw? So maybe we all froze.
Oh, okay.
So you were kind of talking about.
I think somebody. Go ahead.
You were just saying about like using riffs as sort of your kind of go-to on the guitar, and that's kind of what I noticed again with that kind of it's it's almost like, I think of it as like the in between the bass and like what we think of as guitar, which is this sort of lead instrument, but really the middle of the guitar and the low, that first position is really like it's like a tenor. It's a really beautiful instrument, and to learn how to you play very melodically, and that, to me, that's a soloist. That's somebody who's a lead player, because you're really using that riff as like it's another part, and like your songs felt very structural, like your really reverb voice, and that guitar is like, yeah, that's all you need. You got two really nice counterpoints. So I want to hear that. I want to hear the other parts, because I can't imagine those being any cooler with the band, but I'm sure they are. Where can we get this album? How can we get our hands on this music?
Oh yeah. So it's available on all the digital things, Spotify, YouTube, or iTunes, all that stuff. And then I have like actual, if people are, I brought a copy actually. If people are like into actual vinyl like this, I have a Bandcamp page, which is I don't know if all you guys know what Bandcamp is, but it's just another way of sell music, and you can buy like a physical copy of like that album on my Bandcamp page. It's just bandcamp.com/Emily Easterly, I think it is, or something like that. But also, if in the Asheville area, once things get going again, Harvest Records, the record store in town, they have a couple copies of the record too.
Very cool.
So yeah, I think I saw one question from somebody asked me, how long does it take to write my songs? How does she pronounce her name? Aaliyah.
Sorry, I got it wrong. I knew what it was. I got it wrong.
Aaliyah. So maybe I'll answer her question. Some of the songs only took, like I said, like one sort of sitting to write, like hopefully like a day. And then some of the songs took me like I was telling you before, maybe like a year to piece together. So all in all, I think the batch of songs that are on this new album took me, I think I finished all of them in like 2 months or something, kind of wrote them all in a short period of time. So just wanted to answer her question.
That's great. Well, we are, again, songwriting is it's one of those sort of, I don't know, white whale that we're trying to tackle, so to speak, at Rock Academy, learning how as young musicians to really do something like songwriting. And we try, I always tell them, it's a lot of you just got to do it. And there's always sort of, your process is unseen until you find it, but that's never going to happen until you try. But sure. We'd love to have you back at Rock Academy, especially, to hear you play music, but also you seem to know what you're doing when it comes to guiding young people as an educator. So I really appreciate you as a fellow teacher, and I really thank you for being here tonight. Let's see if there's any more questions. We got a lot of excellent, super cool, a lot of great stuff. So thank you, Emily.
Cool. Thanks, Tim. Thanks, everybody.
All right, everybody. Well, thanks for being here. Next week, we got Mr. Patrick Dodd with his awesome, soulful Memphis blues. That's going to be great. And we'll have I'll be on 2 weeks after that. Then we're going to have a very special guest, which I'm not going to announce until Saturday. That's a big one. And then, join us again next Thursday. If you're in Rock Academy, I'll see you on Saturday. And stay well, and we'll see you. Have a good night.